Football is often called the beautiful game, but behind the glory lies a global web of corruption and dirty money. In 2015, US prosecutors indicted top FIFA officials with racketeering, wire fraud and money laundering, accusing them of taking over $150 million in bribes tied to media and marketing deals. Since then, even Europe's football authorities have admitted that this $600 billion industry is a prime target for money laundering.
Organised crime, corrupt politicians, and shady businessmen have exploited the sport through club takeovers, suspicious transfers, and sponsorship deals. From FIFA's downfall to Italy's Calciopoli match fixing, and recent leaks involving major clubs, the patterns are clear. Football is being used as a laundering machine.
So how does it all work? Hidden owners, financial sleight of hand, and weak regulation. This is how the game gets played behind the scenes. Modern football club ownership is shrouded in secrecy. Many wealthy owners and investors hide behind layers of shell companies in tax havens or weakly regulated jurisdictions. The rise of multi-club ownership has only deepened this opacity. A Play the Game investigation finds that 34 English clubs have owners or major shareholders linked to other clubs, often through offshore entities. Over half the clubs in the Premier League have at least one holdings company incorporated in a secrecy-friendly offshore jurisdiction, and for around 10% of these clubs, the entire club's shareholdings could not be formally verified due to secrecy laws. In short, criminals or corrupt elites can quietly control these clubs through opaque networks.
For example, Roman Abramovich, sanctioned as a Russian oligarch after the Ukraine invasion, secretly bankrolled the Dutch club Vitesse Arnhem while owning Chelsea. Leaked documents from the Cyprus Confidential Trove show that Abramovich was the source of virtually all the money used to fund Vitesse by its current owner, via an offshore company in the British Virgin Islands. Dutch authorities recently docked Vitesse 18 points after uncovering this secret network of loans, tying back to Abramovich. Similarly, Chelsea's former owner arranged hidden payments through offshore vehicles. Investigators found tens of millions of pounds flowing from Abramovich's accounts to agents, scouts, and even rival clubs, such as loans to companies owned by CSKA Moscow's owners. By routing payments outside Chelsea's official books, these transactions may have breached UEFA's financial fair play rules and given the club an unfair spending advantage. Criminal networks have also exploited multi-club ownership for illicit gain. US investor Robert Platek, for instance, owns clubs in Denmark, Italy, and Portugal, and through a subsidiary has loaned enormous sums to English clubs, reportedly 78 million to Southampton, 60 to 80 million to Burnley, and 121 million to West Ham. While Platek's case has not been accused of wrongdoing, it illustrates how loans can give outsized influence without public accountability. In other cases, outright crime figures have muscled into football. An Eastern European syndicate known as the Gypsy Clan reportedly infiltrated many clubs in the Balkans to fix matches and launder money. One, Eric Mao, built a chain of lean-on clubs across Latvia, Czechia, Ireland, and Portugal, tying them to a Singapore match-fixing network. His operation collapsed only after exposure. Dutch police report that leaders of Inter Milan's famous ultras, Curva Nord, were in direct cahoots with Italy's 'Ndrangheta mafia, extorting ticket sales and even intimidating players. Prosecutors noted that Inter as a club is in a subservient position in its dealings with the mafia-linked ultras. These examples show how easily football's ownership structures, complex chains of shell companies, loans, and partnerships can be hijacked by the corrupt. Transparency International's Ben Cowdock warns that football's rules have left clubs vulnerable to funds from dubious origins and unsuitable owners. A Al Jazeera undercover investigation, The Men Who Sell Football, put it bluntly. Middlemen told our reporters that criminals can buy clubs using hidden trusts, submit fraudulent due diligence to the FA, and even obtain new passports and identities to evade authorities. In one case, an undercover agent was instructed on how to create an offshore trust for a fictitious criminal to acquire an English club. Football fans should be angry, TI said, because the investigation shows the vulnerability of the English football system to funds from dubious origins.
The player transfer market is a key avenue for laundering. Criminal proceeds can be disguised as absurdly inflated transfer fees or agent commissions. The Financial Action Task Force noted over a decade ago that buying players or clubs is a classic money laundering technique. Indeed, Italian clubs have been caught in a huge plusvalenza or capital gains accounting fraud. By overvaluing player swap deals, they artificially create capital gains. In 2023, Juventus was punished for exactly this. Italian prosecutors found Juve's transfer dealings from 2019 to 2021 involved financial irregularities and false accounting, essentially overinflating deals to hide losses. Juventus was initially docked 15 points, later reduced to 10, and then agreed to a €20 million fine and a 1-year UEFA competition ban for breaching FFP. But in tribunals noted this was the biggest financial scandal in Italian football history, echoing the club's disqualification from Europe. Parallel schemes are under scrutiny elsewhere. In England, leaked documents again from the Cyprus Confidential file showed Chelsea funneling cash off the books during Abramovich's tenure. Over a decade, payments worth tens of millions of pounds were routed through Abramovich-controlled offshore companies to benefit Chelsea on the pitch. Notably, beneficiaries included Eden Hazard's agent, people close to manager Antonio Conte, and other Chelsea officials. These back-channel payments were never recorded in Chelsea's accounts, suggesting deliberate attempts to underreport spending and evade FFP limits. Four top sports lawyers told The Guardian that uncovered deals may have broken both Premier League and FA rules. As a result, Chelsea's new owners have self-reported incomplete financial information from Abramovich's era, and an independent commission is now examining Chelsea's books from 2012 to 2019. UEFA itself fined Chelsea £8.6 million for admitting incomplete financials, though UEFA was limited by a 3-year statute of limitations.
Even when transactions are legal, they can still be manipulated. Agents' fees have exploded. FIFA reported that worldwide agent commissions hit a record $888 million in 2023. Excessive agent fees can be a smokescreen for laundering. A criminal-funded buyer may pay an agent 40% of a transfer, with the real owner hidden offshore. Media leaks in 2018 alleged that PSG's Qatari owners injected around €1.8 billion into the club since 2011, using convoluted sponsorship and TV deals. Manchester City's Abu Dhabi owners were accused of plugging a comparable $2.7 billion into City's finances. This was through inflated sponsorship contracts. Both clubs flatly denied any wrongdoing, but UEFA's own communications chief hinted that City executives once asked UEFA to propose a self-punishment for a €223 million loss, suggesting UEFA's leadership had quietly allowed leeway. Media outlets reported that former UEFA president Michel Platini and FIFA's Gianni Infantino were implicated in helping cover up breaches at PSG and City. These inflated deals are not limited to billion-euro clubs. Last season Everton, again under foreign investment, was docked 10 Premier League points, later reduced to 6. For breaching Premier League financial rules. Even clubs in tiny leagues face probes. Austrian police in late 2023 raided 2nd Division DSV Leuben on suspicion of investment fraud and money laundering, after locals flagged suspicious transactions. In Italy, prosecutors are still untangling the 2018 sale of AC Milan. Former owner Silvio Berlusconi sold the club for €740 million to a Chinese buyer, amid claims the price was grossly overvalued.
Big money also flows into football from sponsorships and side deals. Sometimes this can be a cloak for tainted funding or state-backed sports washing. Gulf states and others famously use football to polish their image. Qatar's investment fund, Qatari Sports Investment, bought PSG and used sponsorship tie-ins such as TV rights deals with beIN Sports to launder state prestige. The UAE's Etihad Airways sponsors Man City and Real Madrid, while Saudi interests have acquired Newcastle United. Once a likely channel for cash tied to Saudi officials, these state-backed owners and sponsors pour hundreds of millions of petrodollars, money from oil export revenues, into clubs, skirting normal checks. PSG's directors boasted of being one of the most ordered clubs in history, but journalism suggests they benefited from favourable reform to FFP rules, an advantage few other teams have. Away from state, shady companies often sponsor clubs with little scrutiny. A 2023 BBC investigation found that around 40% of Premier League clubs had recent deals with financial firms that later turned out to be banned, fined, or under investigation. These included forex traders and betting operators whose products were opaque or illegal. For instance, Fulham took a matchday sponsor, promising 500% annual investment returns, a red flag for a scam, only for regulators to later shut the firm down. In general, Premier League clubs have stated that their sponsors were officially regulated, but auditors warn that clubs rarely look beneath the surface. Such sponsorships are not just naive, they provide an easy route for launderers to funnel money into a club under the guise of marketing fees or partnership payments. Third-party agreements, once common in South America and banned by FIFA in 2015, and media rights deals can hide similar schemes. Clubs may sell a percentage of a player's economic rights to investment fund, then overpay for the player on a loan deal. In Italy, plusvalenze cases often involve third-party entities or clandestine lenders. Moreover, friendly tournaments, stadium naming rights, or official merchandise deals have all been cited as creative ways to clean cash. In short, almost any commercial contract, shirt sponsor, betting partner, or equipment manufacturer can be gamed to hide sources of funds or rewards for insiders.
Regulators have belatedly begun to act, but gaps remain vast. FIFA's own anti-corruption reforms have faltered. The 2015 indictments led to some extraditions, but many officials remain influential. UEFA's FFP rules were meant to stop such abuse, yet enforcement has been inconsistent. Big clubs often escape major sanctions. In 2018, UEFA handed Man City a 2-year Champions League ban for such breaches, but a court later overturned it on procedural grounds, a warning that regulations alone are toothless without thorough auditing. PSG has never been excluded from Europe, despite repeated media exposés of its inflated funding. These patchwork punishments underscore that each national federation or UEFA only sees part of the puzzle. On the supranational front, progress is coming slowly. After years of pressure, in late 2023, the European Union agreed to bring professional football clubs, agents, and associations under the EU's anti-money laundering regime. Under the new rules, which have a 5-year phase-in, clubs will be required to perform customer due diligence on owners, sponsors, and major transactions, report suspicious flows, and publish their ownership structures. National governments can veto, including low-risk clubs. But most analysts doubt any league will remain exempt given football's known exposure. In Belgium, for example, courts and the government have already pushed clubs into the AML scope. Italian lawmakers have tightened oversight of transfers and accounting, and UK authorities are studying whether to impose AML rules on the Premier League.
However, enforcement to date has often failed to meet the challenge. FIFA's own ethics committee remains untested, UEFA's investigations are opaque, and many national football associations have little AML expertise. Law enforcement tends to scrap together disparate cases rather than address systematic vulnerabilities. As one FATF report noted, the sector's structure, finance, and culture, with high case volumes, irrational spending, and prestige-laden status, make players ripe for criminal exploitation. The report on football money laundering warned that while clubs are subject to normal bank scrutiny through their accounts, no law obligates them themselves to prevent money laundering. Until that changes, criminals have shown adaptability by repurposing legitimate football channels for illicit cash. Taken together, these cases are not isolated anecdotes but symptoms of a systematic loophole. Football's blend of prestige, massive cash flows, and fragmented governance invites abuse. Rogue investors can prop up clubs to whitewash reputations, from autocratic regimes seeking to soft power to financial fraudsters needing a facade of legitimacy. Transfers and sponsorships provide many ways to move money invisibly. The recent state of investigations, FIFA indictments, Cyprus leak exposés, and national probes show that this is a continent-wide problem. Yet, mainstream coverage has often focused on the sport or legal technicalities, missing the broader pattern, an industry structured in ways that invite laundering.
As one AML analyst put it, football's front-page scandals are only the tip of the iceberg. Behind deadlines about arrests and fines lie complex webs of shell companies and phantom deals. Each new exposé, whether a leaked contract or a secret payment, helps illuminate the game's vulnerabilities. But a true reform will require transparency, forcing clubs to disclose owners and audited accounts, and rigorous enforcement, making sure that agents and offshore trusts are subject to the same checks as banks. Otherwise, as Transparency International warned, fans should be angry that the sport they love can so easily serve as a vehicle for dirty money.
Behind the roar of crowds and the billion-euro broadcast deals lies a darker truth, a game increasingly controlled by hidden hands and offshore accounts. Football, once the people's sport, is now a vehicle for financial manipulation, fake sponsorships, shell companies, inflated transfers, and silent backroom payments.
The question is no longer, is football corrupt? It's, will anyone ever stop it?